Hey there, this is Noah from the Skilled AI team. I am excited to walk you through our latest tutorial. In this workflow, we are building an automated AI-powered workflow for building any talking head video. What is a talking head video? It's a video where, just like this, there's a person, they're looking at the camera, they're saying what they're saying, and in this particular workflow, you can pretty much get anyone to say anything. I'm not even going to go into all of the ways you could misuse this. Instead, I want to walk you through, I think, a really responsible way to use this, which is to take an image of yourself. This is an image from my LinkedIn profile, to take assets that you own. In this case, this is a software company that I run, and I'm using an example here to basically talk at a high level about what our business does. And then this generates finished videos. Let's take a quick look.
I'm Popsixel. I fix the data you send to your ad accounts so Meta, Google, and TikTok can see who your best customers are.
Okay, so not only is it like kind of wild that I can make a video of myself saying pretty much anything, but it's being done automatically with n8n. So let's jump in and let's go through the specific steps of the setup. And I don't want you to feel intimidated. This is actually a lot simpler than it looks. I'm going to just very quickly delete all of these red sections. Those sections are for error management. And if you take away the error management, there's really not a lot here. There's a whole section at top where we're scraping data from a website. We're letting OpenAI interpret that into a 15-20 second script. And then down here, we have two different API calls to replicate. So the first call is generating the audio file. That's where the written text is basically narrated by the trained audio model. And then when that audio file is complete, it then is passed into a second replicate API call where we pass the audio and the image, right? This preset image, and that's what generates the video. This whole section here is basically to just wait for that process to complete, and then it gets emailed. But we do have these errors because this one, you'll even see if you watch the full video, I had a little more trouble with this one than normal. I think because it takes about 5 minutes to generate. There's some errors that go on, so it's just a good idea as you build either a more complicated or maybe a more error-prone workflow. You want to put in different error messages along the way. So if something goes wrong, I don't have to sit there and wonder, is it still working? What happened? I'm going to get an email no matter what. I'm either going to get an email saying everything went great, here's your finished video, or I'm going to get an email saying, ooh, something went wrong, it had to do with the website. Something went wrong, it had to do with the video, it had to do with the audio. Ooh, something else happened. Here's the error message. All right, so that's the gist of what's here. Let's dig in and do kind of a node by node walkthrough. So there's a lot of ways that you could have the text be generated. I'm doing it where you pass in a website. So I've set up a webhook. The webhook is essentially set up to listen, and when it's listening, you can send it data from a web form, from a website. You're basically submitting to this webhook. We also have a set field where we're determining a couple of the key things we need throughout the workflow. We're setting the URL of the image that we're using. This could be in your Google Drive. I just happen to pick my LinkedIn profile. Here's a public link to that asset. You do have to train your voice ahead of time. You could also use an AI voice that's been preordained, pre-trained. But this one sounds just like me. So you want to put in your trained voice ID. You need an API key. This is an API key that I am going to shut off after this video. So don't bother trying to steal it. It's not going to work. But you need to put in your replicate API key, and then we have the URL that's been shared in the webhook when it fires. So when this basically runs, we're going to see that URL show up, and then what's the email we want to receive all the notifications. So by setting those variables up front, those are commonly used fields all throughout all of this that I can use over and over and over. So I set my email once. Every time I send an email, I have the email already set. The one exception is down here. I had to set it again down here, only because this is disconnected from this chain. Both of the replicate, really all three of the replicate API calls, each time I have my access token, I can just reference it. So this is a good way to set things up. These two nodes are basically helper nodes. What we're ultimately trying to do is we're trying to take the text from the website we've submitted and we're trying to push it into OpenAI so it can kind of think through, how do I summarize this and turn it into a friendly voice talk track for our talking head video. So here we have a custom code node. It's pretty straightforward. It's basically taking the URL, it's passing it into an AI reader. What does that do? It removes all the images and all the JavaScript and all the CSS markup and all that kind of stuff. And it just has a really simple reading view of just text. And then we are getting the text. So an HTTP GET request is just literally saying, hey, open up this website, read its content. This is the reader URL. And then that's what we're passing into OpenAI. So here you do need to connect an OpenAI credential. You have to build an API key. We've done that on a lot of other videos. We can probably send you to a resource if you email us on how to do this if you get stuck. But here's the key thing. We've got got this great prompt. Rewrite the provided website text into a natural and informal first-person voiceover, right? Keep it 15 seconds or so. Structure it this way. If you have a problem loading it, say I had a problem. So essentially, this is doing the heavy lift. In a lot of these workflows, we have AI do the heavy work. This is our AI assistant. It's basically doing the interpretation of that website. If there's a problem, it's going to email us, hey, something went wrong when we were trying to parse the website. No problem. We got an email. If it works, it's going to come down here to generate the replicate audio. So this is the first of 3 replicate API calls. If you've watched any of our other videos with replicate, essentially you're passing in a URL. You're sending headers, which include a bearer token. That's your API key. That's how you're making an authenticated request with your account. It's being billed to your credit line, essentially. And I think to run this is 50 cents or $1, which is pretty short money to create a video. In this particular case, we're saying that we want to wait for the result. We're not going to do any polling. Our preference is to wait. And then we're sending a post body. This is where we have all the different parameters. 2 of them are dynamic. The text that we pass in is dynamic, and the voice ID is dynamic. And all these other settings are what I would suggest that you use. And this initiates a generation through replicate. Again, it's using the max speech HD model. And when this works, it takes about 10 seconds or so, 5 seconds. If this completes with a success, it's going to hand off to the next step. If it fails, we're going to get an error saying something went wrong with the audio. And now we then pass in the audio. This is a second model called OmniHuman. And here it's a very similar structure. We removed the prefer to wait because this is going to take about 5 minutes. And now we have 2 inputs. We have dynamic audio and dynamic image. The image is the graphic that we saved at the beginning. The audio is what we just generated. It's the previous node's generation. So when this runs, it's going to start a process, but the process takes several minutes. I think the fastest I've seen it is about 4 minutes. One time it took 7 or 8 minutes. I believe the length of the video is definitely a factor. These are generally like 20-second videos. So here we have a loop. And what the loop does is it waits 30 seconds. It tries to poll to see, hey, is my result there? Are we there yet? If it is finished, it then goes to our success block. If for some reason it's not finished and there's an error, it says it failed, it's going to send us a video error. If neither of these conditions are met, it's just going to loop again. So that's our default expectation. If this is going to take about 5 minutes, it's going to need to do this about 6 times. So it's going to check, I didn't find it, it's not finished, it didn't fail, let's wait 30 seconds, let's check again. And every 30 seconds it checks. And for each one of these, it's just trying to get the result. Again, we're passing in our API key. This is a very simple replicate call. And then eventually when it finishes, we get a success message. So here we're just polling the status. And then finally we're saying, oh, it's finished. Let's get the result. This one, when it runs, it's actually grabbing the finished movie file. It's a video file from this endpoint. So when we get the video, it just emails the video and the video gets emailed to you. All right. So all these error blocks, if something goes wrong, you get an email. If there's an unknown error anywhere in this flow, it's going to fire down here. Again, it just says, here's an error. But again, this is a pretty powerful way that you can take your likeness and a script of your choosing and pretty easily and pretty cheaply and pretty quickly generate videos. All right. So hopefully you've enjoyed this. Like any video on Skillet AI, what's our goal? We're trying to empower you to learn all the hard skills needed to leverage n8n and AI to make your life easier as a professional, a marketer, a salesperson, whatever it is you do. All right. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thanks for tuning in. I can't wait to see what you build.